Have you ever wondered why you can't shake that addiction you hide from everyone? That secret behavior that consumes you from within, yet you disguise with a smile? What if I told you that, according to Carl Jung, this addiction isn't your curse, but rather the gateway to your transformation? The shadow you try to hide might actually be the sign that you've been chosen for something greater. Jung discovered that what shames us most carries the key to our purpose. Your addiction is no accident, it's a calling, a message from your collective unconscious screaming that you have extraordinary dormant potential. While others live their ordinary lives, you've been marked. The question is, will you have the courage to face your addiction not as a weakness, but as proof that you've been chosen to awaken? Hidden within your daily struggle lies a profound truth that few have the courage to face. That addiction you try so desperately to hide, whether it's constantly checking social media, emotional eating, excessive shopping, or something darker, carries a message meant only for you. Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, believed that our unconscious mind communicates with us through symbols, dreams, and yes, even our most troubling behaviors. What society labels as weakness, Jung saw as a powerful signal from the depths of your psyche. Your addiction isn't random. It's precisely calibrated to your unique psychological makeup, appearing at exactly the right moment in your life journey. The discomfort it causes is intentional. It's meant to grab your attention when gentler messages have failed. Think about when your addiction first appeared. Was it during a time of transition? Perhaps when you were ignoring an important truth about yourself? The addiction emerges as a compensatory mechanism, attempting to fulfill something essential that's missing in your conscious life. It points directly to your unlived potential. Jung discovered that the psyche naturally seeks balance. When we become too one-sided in our development, neglecting important aspects of ourselves, the unconscious mind creates symptoms to restore equilibrium. Your addiction represents this balancing force, albeit in a distorted form. The very thing you're addicted to often contains clues about your unique gifts and calling. For someone addicted to fantasy worlds through games or books, there may lie an extraordinary creative potential waiting to be channeled. Those who can't stop working might be avoiding the vulnerability of deep connection that could transform their lives. People who constantly seek validation through social media may have a profound gift for connecting with others in meaningful ways. The key insight from Jung's analytical psychology is that your addiction contains the seed of your greatest strength. This is why it feels so compelling. It's connected to your deepest purpose. The energy invested in your addiction represents life force-seeking expression. It's not about eliminating this energy, but redirecting it toward its true aim. Consider how many great artists, thinkers, and leaders throughout history have struggled with addictions and compulsions. Their journey wasn't about becoming addiction-free. It was about integrating the message their addiction carried. Jung called this process individuation, becoming who you truly are meant to be. When you begin to see your addiction as a messenger rather than an enemy, everything changes. Instead of shame, you can approach it with curiosity. What is it trying to show you? What part of yourself have you been denying? What truth have you been running from? The addiction points directly to these answers. This doesn't mean you should surrender to destructive behaviors. Rather, it means looking beyond the behavior to the underlying need it represents. The addiction is a distress signal, not the destination. By honoring the message while finding healthier ways to address the underlying need, transformation begins. Jung believed that those with the most intense inner conflicts often had the greatest potential for growth and contribution. The depths of your struggle correspond directly to the heights of your possible development. This is why your addiction marks you as someone with extraordinary potential, someone chosen for a deeper journey of self-discovery than most will ever experience. As we explore this path, remember that being chosen doesn't mean you're better than others. It means you've been called to face what many avoid, the full spectrum of your humanity, including your shadows. And it's through this courageous confrontation that you'll discover your true calling. The concept of the shadow stands at the heart of Jung's understanding of human psychology. It represents all the aspects of ourselves that we've rejected, denied, or hidden, often because they didn't fit with our family expectations, social norms, or self-image. Yet Jung insisted that the shadow isn't merely a collection of negative traits. It's a repository of vital energy and untapped potential. Your secret behavior, the addiction you hide from the world, represents your shadow choosing you. This might sound strange. How can a part of yourself choose you? Jung would explain that the shadow gains power and autonomy the more we deny it. When ignored long enough, it erupts into our lives through compulsive behaviors that seem to have a will of their own. This is why your addiction sometimes feels like an outside force taking control, even though it springs from within. What makes this perspective revolutionary is that it transforms your relationship with your addiction. Instead of seeing it as a moral failure or personal weakness, you can recognize it as your disowned self demanding integration. The shadow doesn't appear to torture you, it appears to complete you. Jung observed that the shadow often contains qualities that are exact opposites of our conscious identity. If you present yourself to the world as disciplined and controlled, your shadow might express itself through behaviors that feel chaotic and indulgent. If your public persona is caring and selfless, your shadow might seek expression through activities that appear selfish or self-centered. This polarity creates the intense energy of addiction. The greater the split between your conscious identity and shadow elements, the more powerful the compulsion becomes. Your addiction's strength directly reflects how much of yourself you've had to deny or repress to maintain your self-image. Consider what your particular addiction reveals about your shadow. A gambling addiction might point to a disowned need for risk and adventure in an otherwise predictable life. Substance abuse often masks emotional pain you haven't allowed yourself to process. Even seemingly minor addictions, like constantly checking your phone, might reveal a deeper need for connection that isn't being met in your day-to-day relationships. The shadow that chose you didn't appear by accident. It emerged in response to the particular ways you've had to adapt and conform throughout your life. Each time you received the message that certain aspects of yourself were unacceptable, whether from parents, teachers, religious institutions, or society, those aspects were pushed into shadow. Your addiction now serves as the vehicle through which these disowned parts fight to be acknowledged. Jung believed that the first half of life is necessarily devoted to building a strong ego and adapting to social expectations. But the second half should be focused on recovering and integrating the shadow elements we've sacrificed along the way. This is why addiction often intensifies during midlife. It's a call to begin this essential second journey. What makes certain people chosen ones in Jung's framework is their inability to ignore this call. While many people can successfully repress their shadow for a lifetime, the chosen ones cannot. Their psyche demands wholeness with an intensity that cannot be denied. This is both a burden and a gift. A burden because it creates suffering, but a gift because it forces growth that others might never experience. The shadow that chose you is actually a guide to your authentic self. By paying attention to the specific nature of your addiction, you gain insight into the qualities, needs, and potentials you've had to deny. Each compulsive behavior points to a missing piece of your psychological puzzle. The path forward isn't about conquering or eliminating the shadow, but about reclaiming the energy and potential it contains. This integration process doesn't happen overnight. Jung described it as a gradual journey of becoming acquainted with your shadow, understanding its origins, and finding constructive ways to honor its needs. As you bring awareness to your addiction patterns without judgment, you begin to separate the valuable energy and insights they contain from their destructive expression. Remember that being chosen by your shadow is ultimately an invitation to wholeness. The struggle you face isn't punishment, but preparation for becoming fully yourself, something few people ever achieve. In the next section, we'll explore how this painful pattern actually follows the universal journey of transformation that Jung recognized in myths and stories throughout human history. If you feel ready to dive deeper into your own mind and balance both your light and shadow, explore the Sim Method ebook. It's a practical guide that helps you awaken your inner strength in just 5 minutes a day. The link is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. Throughout human history, stories have been told of ordinary individuals who receive a mysterious call to adventure. Joseph Campbell, heavily influenced by Jung, named this universal story the hero's journey. What most people don't realize is that this journey often begins with a form of addiction or compulsion, a pattern clearly visible in the lives of those Jung would consider chosen ones. The hero's journey typically starts in an ordinary world where something feels missing or wrong. This discomfort manifests first as restlessness, then as behaviors aimed at escaping the emptiness, your addiction. Far from being a detour from your heroic path, this addiction actually marks the beginning of your journey. It's the first sign that you cannot remain in the comfortable but limited world you've known. Jung observed that those destined for significant psychological development often struggle intensely at first. Their addictions and compulsions represent a primitive attempt to transcend ordinary consciousness and connect with something greater. The alcoholic seeking transcendence through drink, the workaholic pursuing meaning through achievement, the love addict chasing connection through romance, all are responding to a genuine spiritual hunger, albeit in unsustainable ways. What separates the chosen ones from others is not the absence of addiction, but their inability to find lasting satisfaction in it. While some people can maintain their compulsive behaviors indefinitely, the chosen ones eventually reach a breaking point. The addiction stops working. The escape route closes. This moment of crisis, what Jung called the night sea journey, marks the true beginning of transformation. Look closely at the stories of transformed lives throughout history. Almost invariably, they include a period of compulsion, followed by a crisis that forces a deeper reckoning. The pattern appears so consistently that Jung considered it archetypal, woven into the very structure of human psychological development. Your addiction doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're following an ancient pattern of transformation. This perspective dramatically shifts how you view your struggles. The pain of addiction becomes not just meaningful but necessary, a fire that forges something essential in you. The intensity of your compulsion directly correlates with the depth of transformation possible. Those with mild discontent rarely undertake the hero's journey. It requires the motivation that only genuine suffering provides. Jung noted that the unconscious operates through compensation, creating symptoms proportional to what's needed for growth. If your addiction feels overwhelming, it's because the potential within you is equally powerful. The psyche wouldn't mobilize such energy unless something significant was at stake. Your addiction represents psychic energy that needs to be redirected, not eliminated. Another characteristic of the chosen ones is synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to guide their journey. Pay attention to the unusual connections, chance encounters, and unexpected events surrounding your addiction. These synchronicities often point toward the next step in your development. They're signposts from the unconscious, guiding you toward wholeness. The pattern typically progresses from unconscious acting out, addiction, to conscious suffering, acknowledging the problem, to active engagement, working with the underlying issues. Each stage builds upon the previous one. Without the addiction, you might never recognize the deeper hunger driving it. Without facing the suffering it causes, you might never be motivated to change. The very thing that seems to be destroying your life is setting the stage for its transformation. This doesn't mean you should romanticize addiction or avoid recovery. Rather, it means recognizing your struggle as part of a larger process with a purpose beyond simply becoming normal. The goal isn't to fit in better, but to discover what you uniquely bring to the world. Your addiction, paradoxically, is the first hint of this unique contribution. As you begin to recognize your life as following this archetypal pattern, something shifts. The shame diminishes. You're not broken, you're in process. You're not failing, you're being initiated. This perspective itself has healing power, allowing you to approach your addiction with compassion rather than condemnation. In doing so, you begin the alchemical work Jung considered essential for the chosen ones, transforming lead into gold, addiction into purpose. Alchemy, the medieval precursor to chemistry, fascinated Jung not for its literal attempts to turn lead into gold, but for what it symbolized psychologically, the transformation of the base elements of our nature into something precious. Jung saw in alchemical texts and images a symbolic representation of the inner work required to transmute addiction into purpose. This process isn't about eliminating your struggles, but about extracting their essence and redirecting their energy. The first alchemical operation is called nigredo, or blackening, facing the dark reality of your situation without denial. For someone struggling with addiction, this means honestly acknowledging the pattern, its consequences, and the pain it causes. This stage feels like entering a prison of your own making. The walls close in as you recognize how the behavior you thought brought freedom actually confines you. Jung believed this conscious suffering was essential. Only by fully experiencing the prison can you discover the power it contains. What makes this process alchemical, rather than simply painful, is the intention behind it. You're not just suffering. You're consciously engaging with your shadow material to extract its value. Ask yourself, what need is my addiction attempting to fulfill? What emotion am I trying to escape? What truth am I avoiding? These questions begin the extraction process, separating the underlying energy from its destructive expression. Jung observed that every addiction contains a spiritual yearning in distorted form. The endless scrolling through social media represents a genuine need for connection. The workaholic's drive contains authentic, creative energy. The substance abuser's desire to alter consciousness points to a legitimate hunger for transcendent experience. These needs themselves aren't the problem, it's their expression that's become distorted. The alchemical work involves honoring the legitimate need while finding healthier ways to fulfill it. This isn't about repression or white-knuckling through willpower. It's about redirection and transformation. The same energy that fuels your addiction can power your purpose once properly channeled. Jung's approach differs radically from many modern recovery methods. He wouldn't ask you to merely stop the behavior. He'd invite you to understand its meaning. What message is it carrying? What potential is seeking expression? The addiction itself becomes your teacher, revealing aspects of yourself that need integration. Consider keeping a journal about your addictive patterns, not just when they occur, but what triggers them, and most importantly, what emotional or spiritual need they temporarily fulfill. Over time, patterns emerge. You begin to see connections between your compulsion and specific unmet needs. This awareness creates space between impulse and action, the beginning of freedom. The middle stage of alchemical transformation is called albedo, or whitening, gaining clarity and insight into the patterns previously hidden in darkness. During this phase, you might discover that your addiction has been protecting you from feelings of inadequacy or shielding you from the vulnerability of authentic connection, or helping you avoid the anxiety of pursuing your true calling. Each insight brings not only understanding, but energy that can be redirected. Many people get stuck in endless analysis, however. Jung emphasized that insight alone isn't enough. It must lead to action. The final alchemical stage is rubedo, or reddening, bringing new life and vitality through concrete changes. This might involve developing practices that fulfill your underlying needs in healthier ways, creating boundaries that protect your recovery, or taking steps toward the purpose your addiction has been obscuring. The transformation process isn't linear, but cyclical. You'll likely move between stages, experiencing breakthroughs followed by setbacks. Jung saw this not as failure, but as the natural spiral of psychological development. Each cycle takes you deeper into understanding and integration. The prison gradually becomes the workshop where your power is forged. What emerges through this alchemical process isn't just freedom from addiction, but discovery of purpose. The energy previously consumed by compulsive behavior becomes available for creative expression, meaningful connection, and authentic contribution. This is the gold extracted from the lead of addiction, not by eliminating your struggle, but by transforming it. Jung believed that those who successfully navigate this alchemical process develop unusual psychological depth and wisdom. Having confronted their own shadows, they develop compassion for the struggles of others. Having transformed their pain into purpose, they can guide others on similar journeys. The prison that once confined them becomes the source of their unique power and contribution to the world. How do you know if your struggle marks you as someone on a deeper journey rather than simply someone with a problem? Jung identified specific patterns that distinguish the addiction of the chosen ones from ordinary compulsive behavior. These signs, once recognized, can transform how you understand your struggle and point the way toward meaningful change. The first sign is the peculiar timing of your addiction's emergence or intensification. Pay attention to when your compulsive behavior began or suddenly worsened. Jung noticed that significant addictive patterns often appear during major life transitions, graduating from school, entering or leaving relationships, changing careers, or approaching midlife. These threshold moments activate unconscious material seeking integration. If your addiction correlates with such transitions, it likely carries a message about your development. Another revealing sign is the emotional aftermath of your addictive behavior. Ordinary addiction brings temporary relief, followed by shame and regret. The addiction of the chosen ones, however, creates a distinctive form of dissatisfaction. Not just guilt about the behavior itself, but a profound sense that something essential is missing from your life. This emptiness persists regardless of external success or achievement. You sense you're living the wrong life, even if you can't articulate what the right one would be. The content of your addiction itself offers crucial clues. Jung believed nothing is random in the psyche. The specific nature of your compulsion points directly to the qualities needing integration. A social media addiction might reveal an authentic desire for connection and recognition. Shopping addiction often masks a deeper hunger for meaning and fulfillment that objects temporarily satisfy. Sexual compulsions frequently point to a need for vital energy expression beyond physical pleasure. Dreams provide another window into understanding your addiction's deeper meaning. Jung considered dreams the primary way the unconscious communicates with consciousness. Pay special attention to recurring dreams, or those with strong emotional impact. They often contain symbolic representations of both your addiction and its potential transformation. Common dream themes among the chosen ones include being trapped, searching for something, encountering mysterious figures, or discovering hidden rooms, all pointing to aspects of yourself awaiting recognition. Synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, frequently appear around the addiction patterns of the chosen ones. You might repeatedly encounter books, conversations, or situations that relate to your struggle in unexpected ways. Someone mentions a workshop just when you're ready for help. A stranger shares exactly what you need to hear. Jung saw these events not as random, but as the unconscious orchestrating opportunities for growth. Their frequency and meaningfulness suggest you're on a guided journey rather than simply suffering from a disorder. Physical symptoms often accompany the addiction of the chosen ones, not just the direct consequences of the behavior itself, but seemingly unrelated ailments that express psychic conflict in bodily form. Jung observed that the body speaks what the conscious mind won't acknowledge. Chronic pain, digestive issues, or unexplained fatigue might be physical manifestations of the psyche's demand for change. When conventional medical approaches bring limited relief, consider the possibility that your body is expressing psychological truth. The relationship between your addiction and creativity reveals much about its nature. Those on the path of the chosen ones typically experience periods of remarkable creative flow, alternating with compulsive behavior. The addiction often intensifies when creative expression is blocked or denied. This pattern suggests that the energy fueling your addiction is creative force-seeking outlet. When properly channeled, this same energy produces your greatest contributions. Perhaps most telling is your reaction to conventional treatment approaches. While these methods help many people, the chosen ones often find them insufficient or oddly unsatisfying. You might achieve temporary behavioral control without resolving the underlying sense that something remains unaddressed. This doesn't mean rejecting practical recovery strategies, but it suggests that your healing requires psychological depth beyond symptom management. Resistance to simplistic explanations of your addiction represents another sign. While others might accept their struggles as merely bad habits or chemical imbalances, you sense something more significant at work. This intuition isn't denial, it's recognition of depth. Your psyche resists reductive explanations because they fail to honor the complexity of what's happening within you. The final and perhaps most important sign is an inexplicable sense of meaning within your suffering. Despite the pain your addiction causes, you sometimes glimpse a strange purpose within it. Moments of insight reveal connections between your struggle and your deepest values or unrealized potential. These glimpses, though fleeting, suggest that your addiction isn't random, but part of a larger pattern unfolding in your life. The hallmark of the chosen one's journey, according to Jung. Having recognized the signs that your addiction represents a call rather than merely a curse, how do you respond? Jung outlined a path for transforming compulsion into mission, a journey not of elimination, but of integration and redirection. This final stage represents the awakening of the chosen one to their authentic purpose. The journey begins with conscious relationship to your shadow, the disowned aspects of yourself expressed through addiction. Rather than fighting or fleeing from these elements, Jung advocated dialogue with them. This might sound abstract, but the practice is concrete. Write letters to your addiction, speak to it aloud when alone, or simply sit quietly and listen for what it might be trying to tell you. Approach this dialogue not as fantasy, but as communication with a real aspect of your psyche seeking acknowledgement. This dialogue gradually reveals the legitimate needs your addiction has been attempting to fulfill. Behind every compulsive behavior lies a genuine hunger for meaning, connection, expression, or transcendence. These needs themselves aren't problematic, they're essential aspects of being human. The awakening process involves honoring these needs while finding healthier ways to address them. What begins as an adversarial relationship with your addiction slowly transforms into gratitude for what it reveals about your deeper nature. Jung emphasized the importance of symbolic action in this transformation. Meaningful rituals create a bridge between unconscious insight and conscious change. Create your own ritual to mark your shifting relationship with your addiction. Perhaps burning a letter describing its hold on you, creating artwork expressing its meaning, or performing a personal ceremony of release. Such actions engage the unconscious mind in ways that intellectual understanding alone cannot achieve. The awakening path requires community, not just for support, but for mirroring aspects of yourself you cannot see alone. Jung called this the process of making the unconscious conscious through relationship. Find people who can witness your journey without judgment, reflecting back both your shadow and your light. This might be a therapist trained in depth psychology, a spiritual director, or a group of fellow travelers on similar paths. The chosen ones rarely complete their journey in isolation. Dreams take on particular importance during this awakening phase. Pay special attention to dreams featuring transformation symbols, butterflies, snakes shedding skin, death and rebirth imagery, or journeys through unfamiliar landscapes. Record these dreams and look for patterns over time. They often reveal the next steps in your development before your conscious mind can grasp them. Jung considered dreams not just reflections of the past, but guidance for the future. Active imagination, Jung's method of engaging consciously with unconscious material, provides another powerful tool for transformation. Set aside time to enter a meditative state and allow images related to your addiction to arise naturally. Interact with these images as if in conversation. What do they want from you? What are they trying to show you? This practice builds a bridge between conscious intention and unconscious energy, essential for redirecting addictive patterns. The awakening process inevitably includes what Jung called the return, bringing your transformed energy back into the world through concrete action. This might involve creative expression, service to others with similar struggles, or work that embodies your newly integrated qualities. The energy previously consumed by addiction becomes fuel for contribution. Many of history's greatest healers, artists and visionaries emerged from their own dark nights of addiction into purposeful action. This return isn't about perfection, but authenticity. Jung emphasized that integration doesn't eliminate struggle, but transforms its meaning. You may still experience echoes of your addictive patterns, but they no longer define or control you. Instead, they serve as reminders of your continuing development, warning signals when you've strayed from your path and need to realign with your deeper purpose. The awakened chosen one develops what Jung called active imagination, the ability to engage consciously with symbols and archetypes that previously controlled them unconsciously. This capacity transforms not just your relationship with addiction, but your entire approach to life. You become a conscious participant in your psychological development rather than its passive victim. Perhaps most significantly, the awakened chosen one discovers compassion, first for themselves, then extending to others. Having confronted your own shadow without being destroyed by it, you develop unusual capacity to witness others' struggles without judgment. This compassion isn't theoretical, but embodied through your lived experience of transformation. Many chosen ones find their ultimate purpose in guiding others through similar journeys, not as perfect examples, but as authentic companions who understand the territory from within. Jung believed that this transformation of individual addiction into purposeful action creates ripples far beyond the person themselves. Each chosen one who completes their journey adds something essential to our collective understanding of human potential. Your personal struggle, once transformed, becomes a gift to the larger world, evidence that darkness can become light, compulsion can become choice, and what appeared to be a curse reveals itself as the mark of one who was chosen for a unique and necessary journey of awakening. If you felt that strange resonance while reading this, that moment of recognition that your hidden struggles might actually be signposts to your greater purpose, you're not alone. The path from addiction to awakening is one many chosen ones walk in silence, believing they're broken when they're actually being called. Subscribe to continue this journey of Jungian exploration with us, where we transform personal shadows into collective light. Remember, what torments you most might be the very proof that you've been chosen for something extraordinary. The question isn't whether you're struggling. It's what you'll do with the profound energy your struggle has awakened within you.